The standard deviation is another way of finding out how spread out your data is, another measure of spread. It works on data that has a normal distribution. A normal distribution means that when you draw the graph of it, it has this shape. So let's have a look at how we work it out. The formula is listed here. To get the standard deviation, you need to do all these things that are in this formula. First of all, you need to take each point and subtract the mean from it. Then for each point, you square them. This means add up all those answers. Then we divide the total by n minus 1, and then we square root, which in effect cancels out the squaring. So what we do is we're actually finding out the average distance away each value is from the mean. What's the average distance from the mean? In the table, I've listed all the data points for this data set up here. The first thing I've done is worked out the mean by adding all these up and dividing by the number of them. In the next column, we're doing x minus the mean, which is this part in here. So 1 minus 3.45, 1 minus 3.45 is minus 2.45, etc. So all these numbers here are worked out by subtracting the mean from the number next to it. In the next column, we take this number and we square it. So all these numbers here are squared. Minus 0.45 squared becomes 0.21. Notice all the negatives disappear by doing that. Then we add them up and find the total, which is what we're doing, the formula says to do. We have to divide by n minus 1, which is what this number here is. So 42.75 divided by 4.27, divided by the number of values minus 1 gives me 4.27. And then the last thing is to square root this number, and there's the square root of it. So this is the standard deviation. It means that the average distance away from the mean for this number, the average distance away for this number is 2.07. Doing all that work on a spreadsheet or on a table can take a while. So luckily, your calculator can actually work out the answer. To do that, you need to follow the steps listed here. Your calculator works by having lists of data. So if I've got 45, 55, 55 and 55, the first thing I need to do is enter those numbers into your calculator. Once you've got those in a list, your calculator can just, with a press of a button, give you all the answers. Down here is an example. So in this example here, 45, 55, 55 and 55 are four numbers, and we're going to find the standard deviation for those four numbers. The first thing we do is clear all the data. So on your calculator you need to press data and then data again and use the down arrows to get to this option here, which is clear all, and that'll be shown on the screen. When you pick clear all, it will clear all the lists. So this is in the next screen here, you can see the lists. In this list here, we've entered the data, and we enter it by pressing enter, 45, down arrow, 55, down arrow, 55, down arrow, 55, and enter. And by doing that, we put the numbers in this list. This is list number 1. This is list number 2. You can see in list number 1, it's saying there are 5 pieces of information there, even though the last one's got nothing. Then, once we've entered the numbers into our list, we can actually work out the answers to all the things we want to know. So by pressing second and stat and then 1 will choose one variable statistics. Of those, we just want to use the one that uses the data in list 1. So we use the down arrow to choose list 1 and then enter, and we'll get a list of variables or answers for our data. So N is telling us that we had 4 pieces of data, 1, 2, 3, 4. X bar is telling us the average, 52.5, and SX is the standard deviation for those 4 numbers. Here's an example that you can have a go at yourself. You should use both methods just to check that you know how to do them and see if you get the same answer as me. Here is my answer for the standard deviation.